What happens when one of radio's most infamous shock jocks decides to take on Hollywood royalty live on television? Buckle up, because what you're about to see is pure fireworks. Meghan Markle thought she was walking into a friendly sit-down on The View. Howard Stern, however, had a completely different plan. And what followed? You'll have to see it to believe it. Before we dive into this jaw-dropping clash, smash that subscribe button and drop your thoughts about celebrity accountability in the comments. Trust me, you won't want to miss a single second of this showdown. The View's theme music faded, the studio lights blazing as always. At the iconic table sat Whoopi Goldberg in the center, flanked by Joy Behar, Sarah Haynes, Sunny Hostin, and Alyssa Farah Griffin. But today's lineup was anything but routine. They had a guest co-host whose presence alone was about to turn daytime TV upside down. "Welcome back to The View," Whoopi announced in her signature gravelly tone. Joining us today, the one and only Howard Stern. He's here to talk about his latest projects and, well, probably stir up some trouble. Howard leaned toward his mic, a sly grin tugging at his lips. "Whoopi, you know me too well. I'm here to ask the questions everyone else is too polite to ask." The audience laughed nervously, having no idea what was about to happen. "And speaking of tough questions," Joy added, "we have a special guest joining us next, Meghan Markle, here to share her latest charitable projects." Sarah Haynes lit up. "I'm so excited to hear about her women's empowerment initiatives." Howard arched an eyebrow. "Oh, this should be interesting." Sunny Hostin shot him a warning look. "Howard, please promise me you'll behave." "Define behave," Howard replied with a grin that made the entire table shift uncomfortably. As the show returned from commercial, Meghan Markle entered, flawless in a cream blazer and perfectly styled hair, radiating that polished public figure image she'd mastered. She smiled and waved, greeted by applause. "Meghan, welcome to The View," Whoopi said warmly as Meghan took her seat. "Thank you so much for having me," Meghan responded, her voice smooth, every syllable perfectly media-trained. "I'm thrilled to be here with all of you." The conversation started exactly as her PR team would have scripted. Softball questions, polite answers about her current projects, her advocacy, and her vision for empowering women. She spoke eloquently, every response on brand, until Howard decided it was his turn. "Meghan," he said, his voice calm but with an unmistakable edge, "can I ask you something?" "Of course, Howard," Meghan replied, though her smile tightened just slightly. "I've been listening to you talk about authenticity and empowerment," Howard began, leaning forward, "and I have to admit, I'm confused. How do you reconcile promoting authenticity when your entire public persona is built on complaining about the family that made you famous?" The room froze. The silence was thick enough to cut. Meghan's lips parted, momentarily caught off guard. "I'm sorry, what exactly are you referring to?" "Oh, come on, Meghan," Howard pressed, his voice picking up speed. "You've built a career out of playing the victim while cashing in on the very institution you say oppressed you. That doesn't exactly scream authenticity." Alyssa Farah Griffin tried to step in. "Howard, maybe we should keep the focus on Meghan's current work." No, Howard cut her off with a raised hand. "This is the point. Everyone handles her with kid gloves, but why? She's a public figure making public statements. She should be able to defend them." Meghan's composure began to strain. "Howard, I think you're misrepresenting my experiences and my work." "Am I?" Howard shot back. "Because from my perspective, it looks like you've turned private family drama into a multi-million-dollar media empire. Interviews, Netflix deals, podcasts, all centered on how badly you were treated. But if it was so awful, why do you keep talking about it?" Joy Behar tried to defuse the tension. "I think what Howard is saying is—" "I can speak for myself, Joy," Howard interrupted sharply. "Meghan, you just told the world how damaging media attention was to your mental health. I take that seriously. But here you are, on TV, voluntarily putting yourself back in that same spotlight. Help me understand the logic." Meghan's cheeks flushed. "Howard, you're oversimplifying a very complex situation." "Then make it simple for me," Howard challenged. "Because to the average person, it looks like you want all the perks of fame, the money, the influence, the audience, but none of the scrutiny that comes with it." Sunny Hostin jumped in to defend her. "Howard, that's unfair. Meghan has legitimate grievances about the British press." "Sunny, every celebrity has issues with the press," Howard countered. "That's part of the job. The difference is, most of them don't spend years doing a global speaking tour about it." The cameras moved in tighter, sensing the drama was peaking. Meghan's media polish was slipping. "Howard," she said, her voice taut, You're being deliberately provocative and completely missing the point. And your point is? Howard asked, leaning back with mock curiosity. That everyone should feel sorry for you because you married into one of the most famous families in the world and then discovered it comes with baggage? That's not exactly groundbreaking news. Sarah Haynes attempted a redirect. Maybe we should take a step back. No, Sarah, Howard interrupted again. This is important. We live in a culture where people tiptoe around certain figures out of fear of being labeled or cancelled. But someone has to say it. Sometimes the emperor has no clothes. Meghan blinked. Are you calling me the emperor with no clothes? I'm calling you someone whose brand runs on victimhood while profiting from the system you claim to be fighting, Howard replied, no hesitation. The audience was silent, completely glued to the exchange. Whoopi finally stepped in. Howard, our guest came here to discuss her charitable work. Charitable work is great, Howard said quickly. But let's be honest about what's really going on. Meghan, you've presented yourself as a champion of women's rights and social justice. But your actions tell a different story. Meghan's eyes narrowed. What exactly are you suggesting? I'm not suggesting anything. I'm saying it outright, Howard said. You use progressive language as a shield against legitimate criticism. Disagree with you? Suddenly, they're racist, sexist, or some other label that conveniently shuts down debate. That is absolutely untrue, Meghan protested, her voice rising. I've never used those terms to deflect from real criticism. Howard chuckled darkly. Come on, Meghan. Your husband went on TV implying that questions about your child's skin color were racist, when multiple biographers say those conversations never happened the way you described. Joy tried again to pivot. Howard, maybe we should. This is the problem, Joy, Howard cut her off. We avoid hard conversations and let people rewrite history. Meghan, you sat down with Oprah and made claims that have been thoroughly disputed by people who were actually there. Meghan's voice trembled. Those were my lived experiences, Howard. You don't get to tell me otherwise. Lived experiences? Howard repeated. There's a difference between lived experiences and verifiable facts. You claimed you were denied mental health support. Yet palace records show you were offered multiple forms of assistance that you declined. That's not a lived experience, that's an inaccuracy. Sunny tried again to defend Meghan. Howard, you're being incredibly harsh. The royal family does have a documented history of mistreating women who marry in. You're right, Sunny, Howard said, surprising her. Diana had real grievances. Fergie had real grievances. But their situations were different. They were stuck in that system for years. Isolated, monitored, controlled. Meghan was there what? 18 months. And she had an exit strategy from the start. That's not fair, Alyssa Farah-Griffin interjected. Shorter doesn't mean easier. I'm not saying her experience was easy, Howard replied. I'm saying her reaction was calculated. She was giving interviews to biographers while still a working royal. She had a media plan before she even left. Meghan's composure snapped. You have no idea what you're talking about, Howard. You weren't there. You're right, I wasn't, Howard acknowledged. But neither was Oprah, neither was Gayle King, neither were any of the journalists you gave exclusives to. But somehow, their version of events is gospel truth. They did their research, Meghan said, though her voice wavered. Research? Howard smirked. They interviewed you and your friends. That's PR, Meghan, not journalism. Real research talks to staff, reviews documents, hears multiple sides. And you've made sure anyone who might contradict you is silenced or sued. Sarah Haynes looked uncomfortable. Howard, we're getting into sensitive territory. Sensitivity is the problem, Howard said. We've built a culture where certain people are immune from criticism because they wrap themselves in the banner of social justice. But real justice demands accountability. Meghan's voice quivered. Howard, you're attacking me personally. I don't understand why. I'm not attacking you personally, Howard said, his tone leveling out. I'm critiquing your public actions. There's a difference. You made yourself a public figure. You entered political conversations. That means you're open to scrutiny. But the way you're doing it is cruel, Meghan said, tears threatening. Cruel? Howard's eyebrows rose. You know what's cruel? Destroying reputations without giving people a chance to respond. Your father, your sister, staff who worked for you. They've all been thrown under the bus, and they don't have Netflix deals to defend themselves. Whoopi tried to cut in. I think we need a break. No, Whoopi, Meghan said firmly. I want to respond. She turned to Howard. You're making completely false assumptions about my motives. Then explain them, Howard challenged. Because from here, it looks like you've turned family dysfunction into a business model. My motivation is to help people, Meghan said, lifting her chin. Help them do what? Howard asked. Because the main thing you've done is convince people to pity you. Where are the results? Not awareness, not photo ops results. Joy Behar jumped in. She's worked with plenty of organizations. Name one measurable outcome, Howard interrupted. One policy change. One concrete impact from her advocacy. Go on. The pause stretched. Meghan opened her mouth, but nothing came. That's what I thought, Howard said quietly. You've mastered the language of activism without the substance. Talking about problems isn't the same as fixing them. That's not true, Meghan insisted. I've partnered with many organizations on important causes. Partnering isn't the same as achieving, Howard said sharply. Anyone can show up for photo ops and speeches. What policy shifted? What measurable change came from your involvement? Sunny glanced toward the control booth. Maybe we should move to the next segment. Why? Howard asked. Because I'm asking questions without easy answers? That's the point. We've built a culture where certain people are shielded from defending their records because they've made themselves untouchable. Tears now streamed down Meghan's face. Howard, you're being hurtful. I'm being honest, Howard countered, his voice softening but firm. If this feels unfair, maybe it's because you're not used to being challenged. Her tears only seemed to steel him. See, this is what I mean. When the questions get hard, you cry, claim victimhood, or accuse the other person of bad motives. I'm crying because you're being unnecessarily cruel, Meghan said, her voice breaking. I came here to discuss my charitable work, not to be ambushed. Ambushed? Howard leaned forward. These are basic questions any public figure should handle. If that feels like an ambush, what does it say about the strength of your positions? Alyssa spoke up. Howard, making a guest cry on TV isn't exactly professional. Professional would be real journalism instead of spoon-feeding celebrities safe questions, Howard shot back. When's the last time anyone here asked a tough follow-up? You're so worried about being nice you've forgotten about being truthful. Whoopi's patience frayed. Howard, you're a guest here, and you're out of line. Out of line for treating Meghan like any other public figure? Howard asked. For not handling her like a fragile ornament? If she wants to be taken seriously as an advocate, then act like one. Stop hiding behind tears when challenged. I don't hide behind anything, Meghan said, wiping her eyes. I stand by every word I've said. Really? Howard pressed. So you stand by claiming you knew nothing about the royal family before marrying Harry? Even though old posts show you following royal news and discussing Diana? That's out of context, Meghan muttered. Out of context. Howard laughed coldly. There are literal Instagram posts of you talking about royal gossip. Yet you told Oprah you had no idea what you were getting into. Which version is true? Joy Behar tried again. I think we've covered this. No, we haven't, Howard cut her off. This is about credibility. If she's willing to misrepresent something so basic, why should we trust the rest? Sunny stood abruptly. Enough, Howard. You're calling her a liar on live TV. I'm pointing out factual inconsistencies, Howard said evenly. If that makes her a liar, that's her problem. Meghan's voice dropped to a whisper. I've always told the truth. Have you? Howard asked, his gaze locked on her. Because palace staff, journalists, even your own family, paint a different picture. Are they all lying, or are you? They have their own agenda, Meghan snapped. And you don't. Howard shot back. You've made millions telling your version. If anyone here has an agenda, Meghan, it's you. Sarah tried again, almost pleading. Can we please change the subject? Our viewers want positive stories. This is positive, Howard insisted. Holding public figures accountable is positive. Demanding honesty is positive. What's negative is acting like certain people are beyond criticism because they've perfected the art of victimhood. Meghan's posture straightened, fire in her eyes. You know what, Howard? You're right, I have a platform. And I'm going to use it to help people, not tear them down like you do. Help people. Howard repeated, incredulous. Your version of help convinces people they're victims. That's not help, that's toxic. You're teaching them the answer is to blame others and profit off grievances. That's not true, Meghan shot back. Then name one piece of content you've produced that isn't about how badly you were treated, Howard challenged. One interview, one podcast episode, one article that isn't centered on your victimhood. Silence. That's what I thought, Howard said quietly. Your whole brand is grievance, packaged as activism. Whoopi finally slammed her palm on the table. That's it, we're going to commercial. No, Meghan said firmly. I'm finishing this. She turned to Howard. You think you know me, but you don't. You're just another shock jock clawing for relevance by attacking someone trying to make a difference. Howard smiled faintly. There she is, the real Meghan Markle. Not the victim, not the media-polished advocate, just someone who lashes out when challenged. Thanks for the honesty. You want honesty? Meghan's voice trembled with rage. I've faced obstacles you can't imagine, and built a platform for change. Obstacles? Howard laughed. You married a prince. That's not overcoming adversity, that's winning life's lottery. And instead of gratitude, you've spent years complaining. You have no idea what it was like, Meghan hissed. You're right, Howard agreed. But I know what it looks like from the outside. Someone who's never satisfied, always in the spotlight, turning personal drama into a career. The audience was silent, completely transfixed. I think this interview is over, Meghan said, starting to rise. Sit down, Howard said calmly. Show people how to face criticism with grace, not run from it. Meghan paused, then slowly sat back down. You know what, Howard? I will. Here's my grace. You're a bitter man who makes a living tearing down others. And doing it to someone trying to help the world says more about you than me. Howard nodded. Finally, truth. Yes, I tear people down when I think they deserve it. The difference is I don't pretend I'm saving the world. And that, Meghan said with a sad smile, is exactly what separates us. The show finally cut to commercial, the table in tense silence. And there it was, one of daytime TV's most brutal exchanges. Meghan Markle walked straight into Howard Stern's crosshairs, and Howard proved once again why he asks the questions no one else will. Was he too harsh, or exactly the accountability public figures need? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more moments like this. Did Howard go too far, or was this the accountability Meghan needed? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and hit that subscribe button, so you never miss another explosive moment.